What's happening, everyone? Luiz here, and today I'm going to try to work on closing up the piece as much as I can. As you can see, I'm getting towards the end of finishing it up. I'm still discerning if I'm going to go into it more with a finer tip to create another layer. Sometimes I feel like the work needs to progress. It needs room to breathe. And who knows? I'm still feeling doubtful about that part. But it might be the leap on the next one. Maybe. Could be the leap in this one. It could be something I decide a week from now. And then you're literally going to see me doing this piece for like another year. Wow. Anyways. I hope you have a great holiday season with family, friends, or even just with yourself if it's what it turns out to be. Let's get to it. So, for those that are tuning in now and are wondering what it is that I'm doing here, this is a take on abstract expressionism being utilized here to sort of lay down the grid, the base layer. And there's a bit of expressionism in the very lines that I'm drawing now, where as much as the shapes are sort of predefined by the brush strokes from the base layer, what I'm essentially doing here is sort of mastering this tip of the pen, right? I'm mastering the strokes of calligraphy as I'm taking up black letter form, black letter as the letter form that I want to master. And who knows, there could be a deviation from that. But yet, it's also turning out to be quite a parametric design, which is within the confines of architectural drawing that I was quite attracted to as a student in architecture. And there's a whole couple lives that you should tune into where I go into it, but as an architectural student, I was quite fond of the draft table, the drawing table, because once I learned to sculpt through 2D, 3D design, just using basic shapes, given frameworks and rules. To me, I thought that was quite captivating. It was magical in a way. But then it all got taken away because I couldn't make the adjustment with computers. Once I was told I had to make the adjustment, I was like, nah, I don't want to do that, you know? Like, it's not gonna happen on my watch. I'm not gonna trade off sitting in front of a beautiful draft table. All my little tools, all my little different graphites and weight, and, you know what I mean? Like, I love that whole world. And I kind of was young and rebelled against the thought. And my teacher was kind of cool enough. He just let me finish the course on the draft table. He didn't insist. But he did tell me if I wanted to go to, you know, pursue architecture or even engineering for that matter, I had to make the switch no matter what, because in college they weren't going to let me just use draft tables. So, yeah, there goes that story summed up. So anyways, when I started to get into abstract art, right, and there's a whole lot of reasons why I chose that too. I honestly started kind of dabbling with the idea of making art with the old-fashioned ways, right? Using ink on paper. Started out with markers, crayons and whatnot, oil pastels, and I was like, you know, I kind of want to give this a try. I was getting into light therapy too at the time, you know, listening to Rick Rubin. Of course, if you're an artist, musician, you probably have bought this book in the past 2 years. It's like, where else I'm like, I was drawn to the whole light movement, therapy, and meditation, sort of making art through the raw nature of the materials we have. It's totally not dependent on technology. So I started to bring in all of these things that I sort of inherited in my lifetime. All of these tools that I picked up along the way that never seemed to sort of fit in like a expertise or so I went from drawing on the iPad and like doodling to like okay, how am I gonna play with this? You know, oil paints are quite expensive to get into right away, you know, as I was told, but then I was told, no, you shouldn't do it right away, you start making the investment, and I'm like, alright, yeah, I guess I'm late for that party. So I do want to eventually make the transition of oils to acrylics, but I mean from acrylics to oils, especially because I'm dealing with the pigment ink here from calligraphy. I don't know. I guess I have to do my research again. But from here too, I do like to work with pastels and oil pastels, and I know it's something I could probably also add another layer of. Maybe, I don't know. There I go again. Second guessing myself, but I think I was able to give you a good TED talk on my art today, give it a little bit of context, but there you have it. In theory, in sum, it is a mix of abstract expressionism with parametric design, you know. Someday I'd like to call it that it's a Sharian, but I don't know. MC Escher was a lot more figurative and precise, but I try to inherit some of that style of being able to look at a piece from two different angles, right, or two different rotations. I guess, like if they say, you know, a good abstract will have 4 different interpretations, especially if it's rectangle like this, right? Because if you flip it upside down, if you flip it the other way, if you flip it vertically, landscape, you will get a different interpretation, a different composition. So I try to stick to that confine, and I try to stick to what in my way is the push and pull, right? I try to, with this layer here, give you something to bring you into the piece. Close. I want you to come to the piece, not just look at it and browse through it. I need you to come up close and try to decode it. You know what I mean? Like, that's what I'm inviting you to do. Because if you let your eyes glide through it and experience it, you know what I mean? Like, you're going to see things that are related to maybe your upbringing, how you saw the world. Who knows? But that's the beauty of art. It's how it hits you. You know what I mean? Like, this to me is like my world in a nutshell, in a way, because it has like everything that I love, between street culture to calligraphy, abstract, like contemporary work. I've gone into the fact that, like, abstract art in Brazil is completely accepted. You know what I mean? Like, we're more of a urban culture, as much as we have rural influences, major centers. The majority of life in Brazil is based on like that sophisticated urban living. You know what I mean? And that's something that gets passed down and is accepted in our generation. So here too, of course, but I feel like Brazilians really try to imitate America in a lot of ways, right? We glorify it. We want to wear all the American brands. So we inherited that concept. Like, my stepmother was an abstract artist, and she grew up right around the time where the abstract artists were kind of taken off. You know what I mean? She grew up with contemporary art being something that was definitely rebelled against. I don't think it will ever stop being questioned, right? No matter how much it's accepted in like graphic design or just in the art world, contemporary art world today, not simply because it's an approachable medium, right? That the viewer can experience it. The viewer is sensitive enough just to the colors. But it's a world that's sort of devoid from symbolism. As much as we like to sort of try to add context and add some symbolic gestures, I guess. But the signature in the work lies in the fact that I could probably not replicate this, even if I tried. That's just the sheer nature of the way I decide to be an artist, and the fact that, to me, I don't see it as like a limitation, or I don't see it as a mandate for me to have to recreate this any other way than what it is. Right? I really do admire figurative artists, though. It doesn't take away from me having the ability to admire their work for precision, the lighting, the shading. Some of the realism, ultra realism stuff that you see now is just incredible. The talent that's out there. It's like insane. Um, they really redefine the boundaries or the theories that the great masters like use all these sort of tools to sort of create their work. It's like, nah, like you can tell just from the sheer talent and genius that's out there today, that's creating like ultra figurative, ultra realistic work. That's like, man, there's genius in us, and there was back then, and the great masters. Who knows? They probably used tools, used ways to cheat, and you see some of the great masters today using other artists to create the work. You know what I mean? Like you just never know how it was made, but that does matter to the extent that the art continues to be made. Um, and it, even if it stops being created, just so the artist stays true to their vision or their signature, then so be it. Like the work was done. And let's hope that it stays within the confines where it's appreciated as something beautiful, valid. You know what I mean? So, um, great art will always ask to be made. Great art has been made, was made back then. It's all an evolution. That's why I try not to like be afraid of AI, or as much as of a skeptic I was, and I was, man, I used to hate when people using AI for whatever reason, you know what I mean? Especially creative folks. But it's like I started to fucking dabble with it. I guess I drank some of the Kool-Aid and was like, oh shit, like this is actually kind of cool. Um, you know what I mean? Like there's use for me as an artist to sort of create that, like, or just even me as a human to express my feelings. I think some of the AI tools that are out there are going to be great at giving you a new way to project your ideas and your thoughts. So, but it will never take away. Like I'm not afraid of it because it will never take away from this. For me, personally, for you, what I'm doing now, this is irreplaceable in a way. Just between my ability to create these strokes for you live to the sheer fact where I've come this far. If you accompany me doing this whole piece, filling it in, like the sheer joy that I get from doing this, from practicing, from becoming better, from creating content too, which I really do love to the core, you know. But to me, what ultimately matters is my ability to create and make art. Like even everything else that I do in my life that theoretically falls in the confines of me trying to generate an income is so that I can make art. Is so that I can do this. And I love that. I really do. To me, that's how my life becomes simple. You know, there's a lot of talk that art is, exuberant or meant for vanity, or you could go off, right? It's meant to drive up the riches and values of the wrong people in the world. And we can go off about how evil the confines in which the construct lies that the modern day artist has to live by, right? It's hard to escape, but at the same time, you cannot fail to appreciate it in the way that, man, if you do make it as an artist, and let's say you quote unquote make a lot of money, it's able to like give a future for your family in ways that you never imagined. That's a great fucking thing. Like, and if, let's say, by the time that happens, let's say you're able to create art and still manage to do all of the above, right? It's still a really great thing because you're putting something into the world just for the sheer act of beauty and for you practicing something that you love and you believe in, and it gives you the peace of mind or state of mind to sort of be more present for your loved ones, for the people in your community, the people in this community. There's a whole ripple effect that comes from just this moment alone. And that's the kind of shit I live for, man. Like, yeah, I can say this because there are parts of me that's probably doing this thinking to myself like, hey, this is the only way I'll actually be able to provide for my family. That's a probability. Some of you might think like, man, good luck, buddy, But it's not a gamble that I'm taking, but there are parts of myself that really thinks that this way is truly the only way that I will sort of succeed in my lifetime. As far as my expertise and what it really stands for, it's like, to me, this is what it's all about. Of course, there's a hierarchy of needs and priorities, right? But if I'm succeeding at being a father, being a parent, being present, to me, this is what matters most. Because I know that ultimately, in one way or another, it's not blind faith, it's not delusion, fake hope, but I really do believe just as much as food can bring people together, art has the same attractive quality. It manifests a certain energy around it. And that may exist through me in this lifetime. It may exist through my kids. Or a great little artist, by the way, there. But that's for the world to decide, right? And that's for the art itself to sort of develop on its own. Ultimately, what I have to care about is this within the best of my abilities? Did this push me in a way that's allowing me to develop, but also giving the viewer not only a reason to develop their sensitivity or just outlook in the world of what's possible and what could be said, what could be designed, replicated. If I'm hitting those cues, then that's all I need, you know? I'm gonna see if there's any questions at all coming in, and then I'm gonna zone out over here for a good 20 minutes. It's gonna be a short session today. Hey, great drawing. You're an artist. I'll never have that patience. So thanks, man. I appreciate the acknowledgement of that. Sometimes I do lack the patience, but it is a workout. Amazing talent. Thank you. I appreciate that. And appreciate everyone saying hi. That is a beautiful piece. How long has it taken you to get this far? It's I'm probably up to 40 hours, maybe 50, give or take, between all the layers. But maybe even, I don't know, maybe I'm shooting too high. But yeah, I appreciate everybody that's in on the chat, everything, everybody. Appreciate you all. I do have a bunch of the lives, mostly for this part of the layer. I have the entire live session. I do also take my time with the base layers, as much of quick strokes they are. The palette planning and between me placing each one, I really do try to make them count, and I try to stack them on top of each other to fill in the white. So I really get that spectrum for you. But getting sidetracked over here. But I appreciate everybody that was able to tune in this morning. And I'm glad my TED Talk didn't scare anybody away. looks like. And another session for you to finish this little piece coming up. So definitely stay tuned for that. And then we'll probably go from there. I have 2 more canvases like this size that I like to do. So maybe I'd like to shoot for 2 canvases this coming year as opposed to 1. Although I had some pretty personal traumatic situations happen recently. Let's hope that 2026 will be the one where the work comes together. And we'll go from there. Thanks y'all for tuning in. Appreciate you.